to this part 3 in this series about the costumes in the Wheel of Time. In this series, I am talking with Pez, who is an expert in costume design. She studied it in school, and Bree, who is a best-selling author. And we are discussing, going in deep, discussing the foreshadowing and the hidden clues that are in the costumes in the television show, The Wheel of Time. Clues that, spoiler alert, lead to things and point to things that are in the final books of The Wheel of Time. I'm trying to think where to pinpoint the spoiler alert for this one. I don't know, maybe Gathering Storm? Towers of Midnight? It's very, very close to the end of the series. So if you haven't read the books, this is not a safe video for you because yes, there are spoilers in the costumes if you know what to look for things that come later, which is amazing. The attention to detail in this show is incredible. In this video, we are talking about the costumes worn by Liandrin and Rand. So, strap in.
Let's be nerdy, babe. Let's be nerdy, let's be nerdy. Let's be nerdy, babe. Let's be nerdy, babe. Let's be nerdy, let's be nerdy, babe.
Alright, so we talked a bit about Liandrin, so why don't we move on to Liandrin? Trying to make things logical.
That fabulous outfit.
Yes.
Talk about bondage themes.
Yeah, okay,
right?
So yes, comparing, this is what, this was actually, if I'm remembering what Bree said originally, she said, you had noted similarities between Leandrin's costume and Alana's costume, and that was when I went, fuck. No.
Yeah, and there's also a lot of overlap between Liandrin and the White Cloaks. They all have those layered belts, layered straps, layered buckles. Something is being contained and held in with them. And with Alana, although, well, okay, actually they do kind of try to hold in the same thing, sort of. Sorry, Rand.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's interesting how much this, she's still got this very high collar, but out here when she's in her element, she's sure she's got a low cut V there.
Yeah,
she does. And I think that speaks to the thesis. I mean, I'm making this up, right? I have no idea. I don't know the costume design team or anything, but the more that they undress, the less clothing they wear throughout the show, the truer they are to themselves. The more secrets they tell or reveal about themselves. You know, Moraine and Lan are the only ones who have ever successfully gotten naked on camera, and they're the ones that we know the most about their true selves.
Successfully gotten naked.
Listen, they like baths.
Yes, they
do. And Moraine destroyed the only bathtub in 2 Rivers, and I will never get over it.
If the show is true to the books, there will be plenty more baths.
There really will. I love that she managed to take 2 in a very short show.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love how Liandrin has this very complex thing going on with all of her costume pieces. And I also really like how many diamonds they put on her. If you look at her belt, she's got all these leather diamond pieces on the belt. And they've got a diamond type motif again in the print that's in the inset V of her clothes. And there's some diamond pieces as well on her bracers. And that speaks to a variety of different things. I mean, again, I'm a Star Wars fan. Pointy things are bad. But also it looks a little bit like scales. So you could think, oh, this is dragon scales, or maybe it's meant to evoke scale mail, or there's a variety of options for what.
Or it could be what Nynaeve said. That woman's a snake.
It's exactly that she's a snake. She is an absolute snake, and a venomous one at that.
Yes. And she shows the most skin when she's field gentling, dude. Yes. So that is her being closest to yourself by your thesis. So
yeah,
not great.
And as we later learn in the show, that's not allowed.
Nope, not allowed at all. It is very, very bad.
I was very confused for the longest time. I thought that was Tom's nephew in that opening scene.
Right, that was, yeah. So,
and she's got the triangles again on her boots.
Oh, I love those boots though.
Yeah, they're really good boots.
Mm-hmm. But yeah,
here people dress so well.
I know, it's just they're always fabulous. But yeah, this is her in the camp where she has to cover herself a bit and hide a bit of who she is, because there are greens around. Like, there's greens and there's warders. So,
And
yeah.
I think this is actually the scene as well where she's trying to get Nynaeve to talk.
Yep.
And, good luck with that, Liandrin.
Yeah.
No one has ever gotten Nynaeve to talk.
Except for
Or
Lan.
will they? Well, yeah. He
Yeah.
used slightly different methods, though.
I mean, yes, he did.
Well, I don't know entirely. I think Liandrin was trying to use the same method.
She
Just
would
didn't
have.
work.
Yeah. It would, if she could have. If Nynaeve would have gone for it, I think she would have. Yeah.
Cold
so.
chicken.
Yes.
Okay. Then we got
All
the
right.
message.
Wow, I would never have noticed the diamonds in the boots. Oh my god.
And
You know what the biggest saying I always
think?
the minute you said diamonds, I just immediately thought hard as diamonds.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
So.
she is definitely hard.
Ooh, yes,
She is. And I just want to see, like, there's diamonds in this really super cool belt thing as well that she wears in the tower. And this is when she's the most buttoned up. Like,
Yes.
yeah. Oh,
I love it.
This is amazing.
So let me just say, the reds look so cool here.
They
really,
are so
really do.
cool. They're really, really neat and awful. But really neat.
I want more of this chick, like, second to the right with, like, the neck, whatever she's going on. Like, this is, like, incredibly cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you note the one on the right, on the other side of Liandrin, she's got the wing motif on her belt buckle, but she's also got winged shoulder pieces. So they're doing things with each of them.
Mm-hmm. Like, they're not just random. They are, like, well thought out costumes.
They're individual characters. I think they're keeping some of the individuality a little bit down because I'm assuming they're not trying to bring back every actor for every season. That would get to be a logistics nightmare.
Yeah.
So some of it might just be, hey, look at how cool this costume piece, this shredded leather necklace thing is. We can put it on another actor and they might not notice that the cast member changed.
Yeah. And then I'm just going to call this, is this an authoritative queer suspender?
Oh, there are so many authoritative queer suspenders with
I
the eyes to
love-
die. It's like their thing. I love it.
When I saw that in your notes, I literally highlighted. I was like, is that why I love suspenders? Because, like, the first cold open, when Moraine puts on her suspenders, I stopped thinking words. I was just like, suspenders!
They're great. And there's a suspender type element on the one with the wings as well, now that I'm looking at the costume. It's just not leather.
Yeah. And Min has them as well, and so does the 13th Doctor. It's okay, all these women canonically queer. That's my suspenders mean lesbian or queer of some variety. That's my new
much
philosophy.
better term than pillow friends.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
That is the whole reason I haven't read New Spring. I read that term and I'm like, I'm not touching it.
Yeah.
Okay, since we were talking about stripping down to who you are, which is like the first, let's go look at Rand. The first time I remember Pez talking about the more layers to remove, the closest they are to themselves. She was talking about when he was in the library and he met Loyal, who was like, "You're an Aiel," and so like that was definitely a truth that was being revealed. But right before that, in that scene, he's literally holding the prophecies of the dragon. When he has like removed all of his layers and his like, you know, most stripped down self, the first thing he does is grab the prophecies of the dragon off the shelf and start looking at them. And I couldn't tell Pez that.
Of course, yeah.
I was like, yes, Pez, the loyal thing, good catch.
And of course, this is him actually being the dragon, and he looks kind of stripped down here.
Yes. Yeah, he abandoned a lot of his outerwear along the way through the forest of ill-advised mushrooms and things to not touch. And
yep,
don't touch anything, Rand. By the way, we're going to sit down in the mushrooms.
Yeah.
Okay. Take a nap in the mushrooms.
That's a choice. Yeah, they all strip down a little bit as they get closer and closer to their truths. And I don't know for sure that it's intentional, but it happens with so many of them that I feel like it must be.
Yeah, you pointed it out with Dana as well, and then I went and watched, and it definitely happened.
She literally opens her top.
Yes.
And Egwene channels on purpose for the first time when she's in that white cloak, white dress that they put her in.
Which is the least amount of layers. Oh my gosh, you're right. Wow.
And Perrin is also partially undressed when he first summons the wolves.
Yeah. Yeah, they have ripped the shirt off his back when his eyes go gold.
Yes.
Oh, do his eyes go gold? I don't know if they do.
They
I think
do.
they do.
They do.
Yeah.
They do. They do.
Yeah. So
Because that's why we were all yelling about werewolves on Discord.
yes.
Mhm. Yes.
Yes. A lot of my non-readers on our server were very concerned because he had an untreated bite. And they're like, he's gonna turn into a Trolloc werewolf.
Yeah.
Okay, kind of no, but yes.
That was one of my favorite theories. Another theory that one of my favorite non-reader theories was the Tinkers initially show up right after they've heard some wolf howls, and one of my favorite non-reader theories was, are the Tinkers wolves?
I honestly want to go back and make the Tuatha on the werewolves. That would be best.
That would be amazing.
Just a bunch of pacifist wolves.
Yes. Really. Okay.
Pacifist, non-violent werewolves. I love it.
Yes.
Okay, the sweater.
I love
the
the
sweater.
Do you have
it's
any?
the closest he gets to plaid too, because you can kind of see the striping. It's harder to see when he's in motion in the scene. But I love so much about the sweater. First of all, I love that he's wrapped in soft wool because he's our special little woolhead child, and it's really what he is.
Because it's inevitably going to come up on our server. We call him Jorts Althor, after the popular meme cat Jorts, who falls into trash cans and gets himself locked in closets.
Gets himself buttered
because they're both orange and sweet and fall into trash cans.
Yes, you may not butter the Dragon Reborn. That is the rule.
Yeah, orange and sweet, and they fall into trash cans.
I mean, and people, when I kept saying that we call him Jorts, longtime readers were like, what? And I'm like, have you reread Eye of the World recently? I mean, if these boys aren't like going and putting themselves into trash cans in haunted cities, I do not know what. So.
Hi, my name is More Death. Would you like to carry some cursed treasure? Sure, sounds good. Let's get in your panel van.
Wow. Oh my God.
So yes. Our beautiful little
Randall Jorts.
Yes, Randall Jorts. Jorts Althor.
Wow.
But yes, I also
our fuzzy Jorts. Okay, sweater.
Sorry. I love that you can see how the sweater has been mended several times. The most obvious mending is there along his chest. The yarn doesn't match. It hasn't really been worked in very well. I am not a knitter. I have tried to knit, and I made a yarn trap and tied myself to a chair with it, and someone had to free me with scissors. So I don't knit, but I do know that is not how you repair knitwear. Properly if you want it to blend in. So he's done a good job of keeping it repaired, but I think they're trying to sell us on the Rand and Tam live alone in a shack on the side of the mountain and don't have a woman in their lives thing from the books, where they talked about the women's circle was always trying to set up one or the other of them, which is very 80s, but let's go with it.
Yeah. Otherwise their house just will not be
It's
clean.
a truth universally acknowledged that a farmer in possession of a small mountain shack must be in want of a Two Rivers woman.
Yeah.
Yes.
Insensible woolens and shoes.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, you can totally see. Oh, sorry, that blows my mind. I'm just the level of detail. They didn't just put him in a sweater. They put him in a sweater that was ripped and fixed.
And somebody had to hand knit that sweater, and they probably dyed the wool. I mean, they went the whole way with this sweater, and he wears it for 2 scenes.
Yeah.
I love it. And it's just perfect that they've got him wrapped in something soft and sweet, because at his core, that is who Rand in the show is. I loved that the reason that he realized that things were wrong was not because Egwene was wearing symmetrical clothing, but because choices were being made that Egwene would never make for herself. And it was more important to have her make those choices than for him to make the choices he wanted her to make. And I feel like the sweater kind of speaks to that in a way. It's a softening of the Dragon Reborn.
Wow. Oh, wow. And yeah, you're right. It is the closest he gets to plaid. And this is the first episode. And everything after that is moving away from that.
And it's
Oh,
also kind of camouflage. It's we're
Also,
gonna
just to
post.
point out there, Tam is not in plaid, is he?
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
believe.
yeah.
I don't think he is. He might be in some of his other garments because it's not always the top piece or
Yeah.
anything. I've tried to watch for it with Tam and I haven't always seen it. Um,
Okay.
because he tends to be busy when he shows up,
Yeah.
to
Yes.
put it mildly.
Yes. There might be, say, a slaughtering of a narg or something.
Yeah, just a little bit,
Yes.
recreational murder.
Okay. How?
Justifiable.
Yes. 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 Is there anything in this costume that?
I love this coat so
Mhm.
much. It looks like somebody took several pairs of UGG boots and turned them into something serviceable. And that
Yes.
was how I referred to it at first when I hadn't read the books or seen the show. It was just preview images. But
Mhm.
I love this because it absolutely looks like the two men living in a shack on the side of the mountain had some sheepskins and threw them together into something. And even the fact that you have the dye on the leather has bled into the fleece in
Mhm.
many areas. You can tell this was somebody DIYing it by the fire, maybe after some of that apple brandy, and not necessarily caring that it looked, clean and crisp the way it would if it were coming from a department store or a factory in our version of the world.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I think this coat is fantastic. I loved it. I did hear some people say that it looked too modern, but
Oh, geez, no.
no, no. Like when you look up, I think the term is a shearling coat. Like when you
Yep.
make a coat out of sheepskin, like that's this is literally what it would look like. Like it's.
Yeah, and they were very popular in the 70s, so it's
Mhm.
really not that modern. And also many, many, many times over long before that
Yeah.
in the past. One of the fun things about costumes and fashion and the Wheel of Time is one of the sayings for fashion history is fashion is a cycle.
Yeah.
It's a circle and things keep coming back. And it's like, well, yeah, that works in the Wheel of Time, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. I don't know if you remember, there was something you pointed out in your notes around this point. You said there's trying to make him look as foreign as possible. Do you remember this?
Yeah. I think what I was trying to get at is Rand does not look like he belongs in the Two Rivers by this point at all. His hair is much longer, and as it gets longer, it looks redder because you can see more of it.
Hmm.
Whereas it was very, very short when he was in the Two Rivers. Part of that is that none of them have gotten a haircut, but
Well,
um, with him,
Perrin
it's
somehow got
especially
a
interesting.
haircut between the ways and not being in the ways, but that's a whole thing. So,
Yeah, so tracking wigs is it's an
yeah.
art.
Yeah. Yes. I
Costume
didn't notice
continuity
that
errors
until,
are a thing. It's a whole job and it involves many spreadsheets, and I'm glad I no longer have to do it.
yeah.
But I just love that he doesn't look like he belongs with his friends anymore, because for Rand internally that is true. At this point, he doesn't feel like he belongs. He doesn't know where he's from. He doesn't know who he is. He's struggling with that. And the costume kind of reflects that. He's unbuttoned his shirt. It's no longer got the outerwear on, so that was something that tied him to the Two Rivers because it was sheepskin and this
Yeah,
is
the shepherd
imported.
coat is
Is,
gone.
yeah.
Shepherd coat is gone, and he looks dangerous, honestly, in this scene, which isn't something that we've seen very often from Rand. And when we do, it's usually in a little burst moment.
Hmm.
But this is somebody who really looks like if he came at you, it's time to go in the other direction as quickly as your feet can carry you. And that's really interesting with the Aiel cold open around this time in the show. We now
Hmm.
know, oh crap,
Yeah.
he is an Aiel. Loyal was right. Even if you haven't read the books, you now know that. And it's right before we find out all of his other secrets, or even as we find out his other secrets. And
Hmm.
he just doesn't look like he's a part of the world that we've seen yet. And I love that because he's of the world, but kind of standing alongside it as well in a way.
Yeah. Oh,
I would
so.
also like to say, like, just like a storytelling perspective, I think that episode 7 is interesting because the plot happens to Rand for the first 6 or 7 episodes.
Hmm.
And I think like people have argued with this because this is not how dude magic works. You can't see my air quotes, but please. Rand does not click into place with who he is until he accepts who he is, until he surrenders to this. So the plot has been throwing him around for the last 7 episodes. And this thing where he has the flashback and he finally accepts who he is like, you know, they even do this whole thing right in the scene. I don't know if this is the first one, but he comes out there mad and he can't hit the target and he can't hit the target. And then he accepts who he is and talks to Min and like internalizes it all. And then he hits the bullseye. And like, this is that right before that transition where he is going to accept and then start happening to things. So this is the claiming agency moment that I find very, and I think it is, that's part of what's like very scary about it. I mean, threatening. This is a boy about to go from passive to active.
Yes. Very
and I
much
also
so.
love that it marries the moment that he has in episode 1 with Tam when they have the conversation as they're lighting the lantern. How long do you think it takes before the wheel turns a soul back out again? Rand has been asking the questions all along. He just hasn't been accepting the answers that he's been hearing until this particular moment. When he has the talk with Min, he has the talk with Egwene, then he goes and tells Moraine the truth. But he's known all along. And I love the way that that clicked for me as a viewer, because I thought it was him because he was the white boy in the cast. But
he was the
I
white
thought it was
boy.
him.
Yeah. He has red hair.
Yeah, red hair is a fantasy giveaway, especially from the 80s and 90s. But I also loved it because as I've read the books now, this is also foreshadowing the moment when he has the fight with himself on the mountain, the fight with Tam in Tyr. All of this is woven into the story, and the costumes even at this moment in time, they are laying groundwork for things way, way, way later, and I love it.
Yeah. Oh, yes, the detail, it's incredible to me now, like, especially just having talked about it, just blows my mind now. All right, this is a contrast scene, but I mean, let's talk about these
So
boys.
good.
He's got a cloak on top of the coat.
Yes, I was mad at Rand at this point. I was like, come on, Rand, give Matt a coat. You
Well,
have
he's got something on top of his normal coat. It's like another bat coat.
Matt did get another coat. He was wearing it when he was fighting with the small children on their way into Tarvalon, and it's like, oh, Matt. But I also liked that it. It's the brown thing. I honestly thought for a minute that they had stolen the horse blankets.
Yes, I saw that in your notes. Yes.
But one of the things I love about this is Rand is kind of cloaked in light. If you look at him compared to Matt in this moment, the light is on Rand. Rand is in the light. He is
oh
of
my
the
god,
light.
he's actually kind of glowing.
Yeah, they've got the backlight on him. And here's Matt just absolutely sinking into the shadows of this archway behind them. And it's honestly kind of poetic for what they're both about to go through. The poor boys need therapy, but
they really do.
Everyone needs therapy.
Even looking at this though, I'm still like, Rand, you have a very thick coat, and now you have a very thick cloak. Matt's wearing paper. Give him your coat.
And it's literally falling apart. When you watch the show, you can literally see yarn dangling
if you look
out
down
of Matt's
here,
coat.
You can see yarn coming off his shirt and his coat in this, like, down here.
Yes.
He is very, very distressed in terms of his costume having been put through the ringer. And I also like that as Matt goes to Shadar Logoth and comes out, he starts to literally have his clothing turn darker. And some of it might just be grass stains from sleeping outside and stuff like that, where they're trying to hint at those things through the distressing of the costumes. But I think they actually have multiple versions of the coat that have been put into successively darker dye batches as part of the distressing, so that it looks like Matt is literally being consumed and eaten by a shadow, whereas here's Rand in comparison
glowing. Yes. The pattern being like, this is the guy, this is him.
And doesn't it literally do that later?
What's that verse from the Bible? This is my beloved son, in whom I am well pleased. Sorry, I grew up in religious a little bit.
Me too.
So, yes. Okay.
I will also say I have a redheaded nephew. It's very easy to make them glow. just put them outside without SPF.
That is very true. And yeah, that was Liandrin and Rand. I hope you were enjoying this series as much as I did. I love learning new things, and this was such a fun conversation. I learned so much in the 3 hours that we talked. It was 3 hours though, which is why this is a series instead of just one massive long video. The next in the series is going to be Matt, Logain, and Tom. So yeah, tune in for that one. Let me know your thoughts on this video in the comments below. Did you pick anything out in the costumes that we missed? What were your favorite costumes in the show? And in this video, I guess specifically worn by Liandrin and Rand, was there anything that stood out to you? Let me know in the comments below. And if you like my content and you want to support me, I do have a Patreon. It will be linked in the description below. To my patrons, I say it all the time, your support really does make this channel possible. I would not be able to do this without you. Thank you so, so much. And with that, I am going to end this here. So please like, subscribe, and I will see you for the next one. Bye!